It was a spirituality for householders, for people who had professions, who, if it is our destiny to be married and have children. In other words, it's a spirituality that has developed over 14 centuries, in which a spirituality in which human beings attain the highest possible states of spiritual attainment without sacrificing the life of a normal human being. So, the vision of Baraka was to model a form of this spirituality that would develop in this culture, at this time, in this contemporary situation, and that would give expression to the most universal dimensions of Islam. And to tell you the truth, I think we're a few decades ahead of our time. We're a few decades early. I think that this is where Islam has to go if it's to survive. A man named Eric Geoffroy, one of the leading French scholars of Islam, wrote a book a couple of years ago called "Islam Will Be Spiritual or It Will Not Be." So the people that have been attracted to this vision are people who are of this world, of this time, of this culture, and who are appreciating something that is extraordinarily beautiful and that we didn't find in lots of other places that we looked. And we looked in lots of other places, and we experienced many other practices. But we found in our sheikhs and in our, not just in our sheikhs, but in our brothers and sisters on this path, we found beautiful qualities of humanness, of ordinariness in a way, but of an exceptional ordinariness, exceptional integration with life. And we found that of all of the frameworks, spiritual frameworks we could have adopted, we found something profoundly human in this framework, because there is an honoring of the human being, there's an honoring of the human story. Because in the human story, in every detail of our lives, the divine mercy expresses itself. The divine love reveals itself. Our way, and it is a way, it is not something static, it's not a form, but it is a progressive way of continual transformation, which is meant to educate human beings, and educate human beings to become more fully and eventually completely human. There's a beautiful saying over the tomb of over the entrance to Rumi's tomb in Konya, and it says, "This is the Kaaba of lovers. Those who entered here became complete." Now, that concept of completion is also central to our path and to what is at the essence of this spirituality that I'm talking about. And we're not limiting it to Rumi's tradition, but he is exemplary of the way that began with Muhammad, and which is the quintessence of the way of the prophets, and which is potentially a unifying factor of all the traditions and all the faiths, where people who mature in this perspective eventually come to a state where they can see the best in all of the traditions. They can honor the best in Christianity, in Hinduism, in Buddhism. And it is said also in the Holy Qur'an that the Deen al-Haq, the religion of the truth, the religion of the real, will shine upon all religion, meaning it will help to inform and help to bring out the best in all religion, and the best in all of the prophets. And it eventually becomes a state of being big enough to encompass all of this. Because, as I'm sure you know, the Islam, the true Islam that is represented in the Qur'an and that is represented by the Prophet Muhammad, is meant to be a reawakening of the Deen al-Fitra, the primordial religion of humanity. And the main elements of that primordial religion of humanity, if I were just to perhaps try to list a few of the elements that are important, one is that the human being is something extraordinary. The human being contains all of the names of God, contains the essence of the divine creative will, and has been put here on this earth to manifest that divinity, to reflect those divine attributes in everyday life. What an extraordinary idea of the human being. There are other traditions, including some very great spiritual traditions that tend to be a little bit dismissive of the human story, and to aim towards a kind of impersonal enlightenment. But this tradition takes the human being as exemplary in our uniqueness, in our individuality, and sees in the human being this extraordinary potential to express divinity in a unique way. So this is one facet of the primordial religion. Why were we created as human beings? Why are we here? Why are each of you and so many billion other people all so unique if the divine didn't love uniqueness and love individuality? It's quite amazing that that creative power had the capacity to create so many individuals. And what are we doing with our individuality? To what extent are we perfecting it and allowing it to be completed in this relationship with the divine? And that's what we mean by completion. It's not like I can possibly complete myself, but through developing and purifying that connection with the divine, we are completed through that. We then allow the divine to work through us and to express itself through us. So the second thing, and not that this is in any kind of order, the second thing, which is probably the first thing, is our divine relationship. The fact that this is the most important thing in our lives, that if we don't get this right, nothing else is right. If we don't recognize our need to be constantly in remembrance of God and constantly in a state of trust that frees us from all fear, if we're not in a state where we know that all of our concerns will, shall we say, fall into place if we make our ultimate concern this pure-hearted relationship with the divine. This is Islam as we understand it. And this is what was expressed in our sheikhs and in the beloved lovers and dervishes and companions we've had on this path who have taught us so much. We have learned to love God because of the love we've experienced with each other. It wasn't as if we suddenly fell in love with God as an abstract notion. No, we came to see God reflected through our teachers and through our companions on this path. And we were so touched, possibly even transformed by these people that we met and came into relationship with, and who loved us and whom we loved in return, that we began to get a sense that behind all of this was the divine love. None of this would have been possible if there wasn't the call of that divine love behind it all, and that our love of God is returning the love that God, Allah, the truth, Al-Haq, expressed to us and demonstrated to us and awakened in us. And this is just our natural response. And the more we know through our heart, the more the eyes of our heart are open, the more we have the possibility of perceiving that there is this beneficence, this beauty, this generosity behind all the forms of existence. And we're responding to that beauty. This is the primordial religion. It's simple.